How to make any conversation dazzle. Day in and day out, we are in different situations, and in order to make and start a conversation, we fumble and we have a lot of underconfidence. And we're not able to basically get that right sentence or question to start the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you struggle with that, then today's lesson is for you. Because in today's lesson, we'll look at 36 killer conversation starters you can use with anyone, and most importantly, situation-specific conversation starters. First of all, let's understand what is the aim of this lesson. The aim is to make amazing and memorable conversations. Now, it's very easy to start the conversation, but it may not be easy to further make it memorable and at the same time amazing. Remember the word dazzling conversation. So if you want to have a conversation with somebody that is meaningful, amazing, and dazzling, these are the conversation starters for you that we have today. First of all, allow me to mention that we will look at event-specific, work or party-specific, calendar-specific, and date-specific conversation starters. Number one conversation starter that we have for today is, how do you know the host? What is the meaning of host here? A person who has organized the party. So if you're at a party with somebody, you run into a stranger that you feel like talking to because they're wearing a nice piece of jewelry or dress or suit, and you just feel like talking to them, getting to know them. Why not start it with a meaningful question, which is event specific? How do you know the host? How do you know the person who has organized the party? Number two is, what was the highlight of the day for you? Well, you may choose to ask this question to somebody that you know already. You ask them possibly in the evening, so usually people ask, how's the day? But instead of saying, how's the day, you make it more specific by saying, what was the highlight of the day for you? Number three conversation starter can be, what was the highlight of your week? Now imagine if you're meeting after the weekend, you're meeting on Monday morning. You say, so what was the highlight of the weekend? Or if you're meeting them on Friday evening, you say, so what was the highlight of the week since the week has gotten over? The fourth conversation starter can be, have you been at an event like this before? Imagine if you're meeting somebody at an art gallery or let's say an exhibition. You ask them, so, hi, have you been to an event like this before? Or a fashion show for that matter. Asking questions like this may as well just begin the conversation on a meaningful note, and you may start having something that is amazing and dazzling. Number five, what was the high point of the day so far? You may use this conversation starter with a colleague or with a family member and asking them, so insofar, what has been the highlight of the day? The high point. What is the high point? Basically, a noteworthy situation during the day, which was different from the rest of the regular day. Number six, has this week been a busy time for you? Basically asking, was it a busy week for you? And the person says either yes or no, elaborates on it, you asking further rhetorical question, and the conversation starts. Sometimes it's not always about having long conversations. Sometimes it's also about just filling up that silence and making sure that you basically fill that awkward moment during the situation and ask them very casually, so what was the highlight of the day or the week for you? Having that small talk is a very James Bond character. So if you have somebody like that, if you built that character in you, people will always feel comfortable around you and you'll become the favorite one in the room. This was 1 to 6. Let's quickly move to number 7. How is the drink called, or appetizer feel, or artwork game? Basically, so many situations. If somebody is drinking something, you can say, how is the drink? Or you can say, what is this drink called? Or you can say, what is this appetizer called? Or you can say, how does this appetizer feel? It looks very interesting. I'd love to taste it, possibly get my own. Or you say, how's this artwork game? Somebody's playing something, so you basically ask them, how's this artwork game? Number 8, having fun. Very small, simple and sweet and straightforward. Are you having fun? Meeting somebody and making sure, randomly, you just simply ask, so, what's up? Instead of what's up, you can say, having fun. Number 9, what are you doing this weekend? If you wish to meet somebody, or if you just simply want to check on their availability, you could say, so what are you doing on this weekend? That means Saturday and Sunday. Number 10, What are your favorite restaurants in around here? If you're new to the city and if you want to hit a conversation with a colleague, you could just simply say, so what are your new restaurants? What are some good restaurants around here? If you're new to the city and you've just taken admission at a college in a new city, you could ask this question to your classmate and ask, so what are some good restaurants around here? And there you go. They may talk about their suggestions, and you may talk about the cuisines that you like, and you may end up going to the restaurant with that one person. Keeping up with any TV shows or news lately? Very interesting one. Basically, you're asking them if there's any news that they're following these days or any TV shows that they're following. In any case, you may end up having a good discussion and spend good time together. Number 12, can you recommend any desserts? Is it a dessert or a dessert? It's a dessert, a sweet that you eat in the end of the meal. So you could possibly ask it to somebody who's known at the restaurant. You could ask it to the waiter and you've got a small talk beginning, or you could ask somebody who's visited a restaurant before and you're taking their recommendations. So this was 7 to 12 conversation starters that you can make use. Let's move to next one, and that is number 13th. What a beautiful venue, or what an ugly venue, or a bizarre venue. Have you been here before? If you're going to a new place and you're alone, or depending on the situation, you could possibly make a statement first of all, what a beautiful, what an ugly, although ugly can be slightly strong, or what a bizarre venue, and then ask the question to that person. Have you been here before? Number 14th, did you see that viral Dash video on YouTube? Very interesting conversation starters. Every now and then we have viral videos on YouTube, Instagram, etc. You could check with them with a conversation start about that video, and there you go. You may end up watching the video once again together and have a good laughing time. Number 15th, I am making a coffee or going to grab a drink. Does anyone else want it? I think it's one of the most sensible conversation starters. If you're seated in a group and everybody's doing their work, you stand up and you say, hi, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. Does anybody want to join me? It's a beautiful, not just a conversation starter, but a very sensible thing to do. So if you are in a situation like that, make use of this conversation starter. 16th, who is your role model? On the table, there's nothing else to do and there are only two people seated. So you ask that one person on the table and say, so who is your role model? And there you go. You may have a good conversation beginning. 17th, what do you drive? It does not mean anything else. It basically means a car or a mode of transport, etc. Is it a scooter or a car? Or if it is a car, what car is it? Is it a sedan or an SUV or a coupe, etc.? 18th, I'm a bit nervous about the presentation. Have you ever done it before, or have you done before? If it is a presentation or if it is a public speech, etc., you take somebody else's advice. First of all, you make the statement, I'm a bit nervous about it, and then you ask them for their experience if they've done that, seek their advice, etc. Starter number 19th is, what jobs did you want to do when you were a kid? Our plans change every now and then. If you want to start a conversation and ask a meaningful question to somebody, you could ask them, as a kid, what did you want to do? For example, if I were to talk about myself, as a kid, I wanted to be somebody who was news reading on BBC. Well, if not that, very much close to this on Let's Talk With You, reading and conducting these sessions. So a very meaningful question. Number 20th, what's the most important thing I should know about you? Imagine if you're a boss or a normal colleague or a friend who's meeting somebody for the first time, and you know that you're going to be going a long, long way with them. You could ask this question as a conversation starter and say, what is that one thing that I should know about you? And be careful of possibly something sweet about you as a person to know you better. 21 is, when you were a kid, what did you think your life would look like? Just like question number 19th, a very meaningful question you can ask to possibly somebody on a date if you want to continue talking. A lot of times there are awkward silences. To avoid that, you could ask this question. 22, which of the family members are you most like? So many times it's like, you resemble somebody, a person the most in your family. So you could just simply ask them, so who's this one person in your family that you most resemble? For example, I resemble my dad the most. What about you? 23, do you think there are aliens? Now, it may come across as a bit of a bizarre question, but why not just ask the question? You're just exploring the person's view on, sciences and the cosmos, etc. Let us quickly move to number 24. If you were an animal, what animal would you be and why? It's a very sweet question to get to know the person better. Of course, you cannot ask this to a stranger because it would look a little bit awkward. You could ask this to a friend or a colleague just to begin a conversation and kill that awkward silence. 25. What was your first fashion disaster? What is the meaning of fashion disaster? Something that you wore which was completely, I don't want to use the word unnatural, but completely different from the usual fashion sense of fashion of people around you. In that case, you can say, what was your first fashion disaster? For example, my first fashion disaster was when I was in London and I wore a kurta pajama on a Christmas. So I think that was definitely a fashion disaster for me. What was your fashion disaster? Let me know in the comment section below. 26th, what's the proudest thing you did when you were a kid? Sorry, it's not prude, it's proudest thing you did when you were a kid, which basically is letting the person feel more comfortable and confident about themselves and asking them, what did you do the proudest thing when you were a kid? Something that you're very happy about and you take pride in. And now let's look at conversation starters based on random months. If you're in a particular month, you could actually make this starting of the conversation relevant in relation to the month. For example, first of all, let's look at January. It's January, imagine. You could say, what's your New Year's resolution? Yeah? To hit the conversation, you could just, every time people make conversations about the resolutions that they have, you could start the conversation with this question, asking them about the resolutions. February, what's most common in February? It is the 14th of February, which is the Valentine's Day. So you could say, do you usually celebrate Valentine's Day? 29th, it could be for the month of March or April. And you could say, do you know anything about Easter Bunny? Easter Bunny, the basically Friday that comes either in the month of March or April is what we are referring to. 30th, in the month of October, you can say, what is the best Halloween costume you have ever worn? Or have you ever been to any Halloween party? In the month of October, we've got the ghost party that comes. In that situation, you can start the conversation using this beautiful conversation starter for the month of October. And finally, December. For December, you can say, how does your family celebrate the New Year? Because the New Year is just at the cusp of coming after the 31st of December. So you ask this relevant question to begin a meaningful conversation. And finally, let's look at starters for dates and casual meets. What is a date? You go on a romantic date with somebody on a coffee or a lunch or a dinner. And casual meetings, you can use these conversation starters. For example, you have a dash, me too, tell me more. If there's something common between the two of you, for example, let's say a leather bag, or you can say a Shih Tzu puppy, you could say, you've got a Shih Tzu, me too, tell me more about it. If you've got a common bag, or if you've got common travel plans, you could talk about that commonality here, insert it here, and have a conversation on it. Or you can say, hey, you are Dash, that sounds interesting. You could here possibly insert a sun sign. For example, I'm a Gemini. You could say, hey, you're a Gemini. That sounds interesting. What's your favorite thing about your job? Or what's your favorite thing about your sun sign character? Or you could say, hey, you're a doctor or a fashion designer or an engineer. That sounds interesting. What's your favorite thing about your job? So not just job, you can add any other interesting information about the person that you're talking to. Or 35 can be, sorry, this is a bit forward, but I'm going to try out that new dash that opens downtown next week. Would you like to come? It's a beautiful conversation starter. Without wasting time, you're approaching the person and you're first of all apologizing by saying, sorry, this is a bit forward. This is a bit forward. It may come across as a little bit too quick, but there's a new ice cream shop that is open downtown. Would you like to try that with me? So beautiful conversation starter, especially inviting the person on a date or possibly a casual meeting. And the last conversation starter can be, hey, how is your weekend coming along? During the weekend, you meet people. It's a Saturday or a Sunday. You ask them, how is your weekend going? Remember, it's still not over. You're asking them, how is it going on at the moment? In that situation, during the weekend, you could say, how is your weekend going? So ladies and gentlemen, these are some very important and interesting killer conversation starters, which are month-specific, situation-specific, and meeting-specific, social setting-specific. You can use all of them to make yourself a confident speaker. For more such videos, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.